What's up, guys? So in this video, I wanted to go over how you can find a real estate attorney or a title company to close your deals. So if you're brand new and you haven't done any deals yet, the first step is to look up on Google, just type in your state. So for example, I'll use the state that we work in. And as you can see, I already searched this before, but you would just type in your state and then you would type in real estate attorney state or title company state. I misspelled that, but then Google will just tell you typically whether or not it's attorney state or title company state. And all that means is that in some states, like North Carolina, you need to work with a closing attorney to actually close your wholesaling or your real estate deals. And in other states, you can work with what's called a title company. North Carolina, again, it's a closing attorney. In some states, it's a title company. So then I'm just going to use North Carolina as an example. But then I would search up whatever county you're mainly focusing on. If you're focusing on a few, I would just choose one or two. I'll just choose one. For example, I would choose Mecklenburg County, NC, real estate closing attorney. So all I would do is search up the county and state, and then I would search real estate closing attorney. And as you can see, they gave me a few suggestions right up top here, so we could go through these people. And then also you can scroll down and see who pops up here. As you can see, there's a few people popping up: Matheson Attorney, GPS Law Group, McGrath. So all these different people. So then literally all I would do is I would just call these people up and ask them a few quick questions and see if they'd be willing to work with us. Sometimes people might say no. Some attorneys, for whatever reason, they don't want to take on new clients, especially newer investors. Like for example, when I was starting out, I called probably 5 or 6 people and they just told me no. They're just not interested in working with me. I think because they could tell, I was a newer investor and maybe they didn't want to like help me or coach me on how to close deals. But you will find a great attorney. And when you do find a great attorney, you'll know because they're going to be very helpful and excited to work with you and willing to answer any questions you might have. So I have this little sheet that I'll share with you. If you want this, just comment below. I'd be happy to send it to you. And what you're going to do is just use this to keep track of anyone you reach out to. And that way you can save this information for later. Once you do get a deal, you can reach back out to this closing attorney, let them know, you have a deal ready, and then you can get it closed with them. So first things first, obviously you want to write in the name of the office. And then when you call them, you want to write down the name of the closing attorney, whoever you speak with. It might be what's called a paralegal, which is basically like an assistant to the attorney. Typically, the attorney is the one who actually drafts the documents for closing and stuff like that. They sign off on the actual closing. But typically what you're going to be working with is what's called a paralegal. And again, they're like essentially like the attorney's assistant, but I don't want to downplay it like that. They're not just like a secretary or whatever. They're actually the ones that are doing most of the work on the real estate transactions so that they can prepare it for the actual closing. You just want to build a good relationship with both the head closing attorney and the paralegal because you're going to need to be working with them both to close your deals. You would just write in the name of the office, then the name of the attorney / paralegal. So I could write that in here as well. Then you would write in their phone number, their best phone number, and then their email address. Typically, I would ask them for both the head closing attorney's email address, just to keep them, copied on all emails, as well as whatever email they would like you to use when you send them a new deal. So you can just ask them that, what email would you like me to use when I do have a deal and I'm ready to go ahead and set up a file with you? So you can just ask them that, and then you can get their email address. Like I said, I would try to get at least 2 email addresses, one for who they want you to send the contract to when you get a new deal, as well as the head closing attorney or the head of the office there. And next, you want to ask them, do they handle assignment of contract? It's very important because some attorneys don't, for whatever reason. Again, assignment of contract, at the time of this video, are legal in most states in the United States. A few states have started to kind of phase them out and make it more illegal to do assignment of contract. So if you're in those states, then you're not going to be able to do them. But like I said, I think at the time of this recording, it's 5 or 6 states that have actually took action to kind of phase those out, I guess is the right word, or make them illegal. So if you're in one of those states, you're not gonna be able to do it, but you can still do what's called a double closing. So first things first, you just want to ask the attorney, hey, do you handle assignment of contract? That's typically the type of deals that we're going to be doing. So you just want to ask them if they handle those type of deals. They're either going to say yes or no. Then you can, if they say no, then you can ask them, okay, well, do you handle double closings? Because a double closing, all that means is that you're going to actually close on the property, and then you're going to go ahead and sell that to your buyer. Rather than a wholesale transaction, there's only one closing and you assign the contract. With a double closing, there's 2 closings. That's why it's called a double closing, where you close and then you sell the property to your buyer. So don't let that scare you. If you do need help with a double closing, I made another video on my channel about how to get proof of funds. And you can use that same company that I mentioned in that video to help you with your double closings. And if you need any help with that, just comment below or message me on social media. I'll be happy to help you. And next, what you want to ask them is, what is the cost of an average closing? So you just want to ask them, it's typically called a settlement fee, but you can just ask them what is the cost of an average closing with them. And they'll tell you. And then you want to, like I said, call, even if you speak to one attorney and they seem great and they seem like they're willing to work with you, I would speak to at least 3 attorneys who are willing to work with you. So if they tell you no, you don't have to fill out any of this information if they're not interested in working with you. But I just realized I messed this up. But if they say yes, I would say get at least 3 different people that you speak to, so that way you can compare and contrast their fees. And cheaper is not always better, but you just want to kind of have a spectrum so that you can figure out what's the average closing fee in your area. For example, maybe you call a first person and their settlement fee is $1,200. To me, that's a bit on the high side. And you can ask them their closing fee for a cash deal and a lender transaction. Typically for a lender, most people charge $100 to $300 extra because there's a lot more paperwork involved, a lot more time involved. But again, back to the example, let's say one company charges $1,200 for a closing and the other company charges you $900 for that same closing. But all things being equal, if their service is equal, you'd obviously want to go with the cheaper one because you're going to save your buyers money, which makes them happy. And some buyers will tell you that they want to close only with their attorney because their attorney gives them the best deal on the closing costs. And so if you tell them, well, hey, I totally understand, but look, my attorney only charges $900. For example, if that was kind of the going rate in your area, then they're probably not going to sweat it over maybe $100, $200. But let's say their attorney charges them, like cuts them a deal, charges them $600, and your attorney charges $1,200. They might have an issue with that. So you do want to find an attorney that's competitively priced so that you don't have to run into too many issues with buyers complaining about closing costs and stuff like that. Next, you want to ask them what the cost of title insurance is. So most transactions, you're going to need title insurance in order for the buyer to feel comfortable closing on the property. And so you just want to ask them, what is the average cost of title insurance, so that and instead of asking all of these questions, you could ask them to send you a copy of a recent settlement statement or a HUD statement, which will show you these costs outlined. But it's very easy to ask them these questions. It'll only take you, this whole process should only take you, 3 or 4 minute conversation. And if if they're being very friendly, you can extend things out. But typically these attorneys are very busy. They're working on a bunch of stuff. So you kind of want to keep things brief. And like I said, you can get through this in probably 3-4 minutes. Next, you would ask them the cost of title insurance, and then you would ask them the cost to do a title search. So a title search is what they do when you send them a new file to make sure that title is clear and make sure there's not going to be any issues when it's time to close. And if there are, then you guys will get to work on that. But you want to ask them the cost to do a title search because, especially when you're a new client, if things don't work out and let's say your buyer backs out or something, you're going to be on the hook for that cost because they already spent time and effort working on this file. And so you just want to know what that cost is so that you can prepare for it ahead of time. For example, if someone charged you $500 to do a title search and your buyer backs out, then you might be on the hook for that $500. And so you would just want to know that ahead of time so that you're like, okay, if I put this property in escrow, which is what it's called, putting into escrow, and buyer backs out, then I have to pay $500. So maybe you want to get $500 non-refundable paid directly to you from the buyer so that that'll cover that cost, for example. So you'd ask them what it costs to do a title search on average. And then you want to ask them the areas they cover. Some attorneys, some title companies are nationwide and they cover every single state. Some attorneys are very local where they will only cover their specific county that they're working in. Now that's kind of rare. Most attorneys will at least cover the whole state, but you just want to ask them what areas they will cover so that you know ahead of time. So for example, we work with one attorney. We work with actually 2 or 3 attorneys, but mainly one in North Carolina, and they close our deals from coast to coast, basically. From one side is the coast and the other side is the mountains, but from either side of the state, they help us close deals. And some attorneys don't like to do that. They just like to stay within their area. I know some attorneys, for example, they might they might have an office close to like the county office or whatever. And they might just want to stay local to that county so that they can literally just file paperwork within walking distance of their office, for example. So you just want to ask them what areas they cover, whether that's counties, states, or whatever. And then you want to ask them if they have any discounts available for you for volume. So maybe you're just getting started, but maybe you're doing more deals, or you plan to do more deals in the future. And some attorneys will give you a discount if you bring them, for example, 5 or 10 files per month. So it might sound like a lot, but you can definitely get up to doing that many deals. And like I said, some attorneys might offer you maybe whether it's 50 bucks, 100 bucks off per closing if you guarantee to bring them that sort of volume to their office, because they get paid for closings. And if you're telling them, hey, I only want to bring my files to your office, but in exchange, could you give me a bit of a discount on the closing fee? Some attorneys are going to be open to that. Some will not, but some might. So you just want to ask them, put the ball in their court. Don't pressure them, but if they offer it, then that's great. And next, last question, I would ask them, how fast can they close? Now, I would ask them, how fast could you close if I brought you a deal fully signed, ready to go, and title was clear? How fast could you close? So you want to add that part, because obviously sometimes title issues will delay your closing, but you want to ask them, if all things being equal, buyer's ready to go, seller's ready to go, title is clear, and I bring you a file on Monday, how fast can we close? Like, could we close that Friday, for example? Or could we close on Tuesday, for example? Typically not. Typically, you're not going to close in 24 hours, but you want to know that up front, because some attorneys are very busy and they don't really want to take on rush files like that. It's called kind of a rush file when you need to close quickly. And so some attorneys will tell you, like their standard practice is like, nope, we need 3 weeks to close a deal regardless. Like whether it's a cash deal, title's clear, they still need 3 weeks. And other attorneys might say, hey, if title is clear, we can close within a couple business days. Like, for example, if we brought them that deal on Monday, they could close that deal on a Thursday or a Friday, same week. And so that's very valuable for you to know. And that's why I said you want to contact multiple attorneys when you're reaching out, because let's say you have 3 attorneys like on your roster or in your system or whatever, and one attorney is great to work with, but they're going to take 2, 3, 4 weeks to close a deal. Whereas another attorney, they might charge you more money to do a closing. Like they might be the more expensive attorney, but they might be the faster attorney also. And so they might be the person that you come to when you have a deal for whatever reason that needs to close really quickly, and they can do it within that same week turnaround, like I mentioned. So that's why it's important, like I said, to speak to at least 3 people who are interested in working with you, and keep their information, fill out this lead sheet, keep their information handy. And then when you're ready to reach out to them with a deal, reach out to them. And I would say, especially when you're getting started, I would say to spread your deals around. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're doing like 1 deal a month to start out. For your first deal, like let's say it's January, send your first deal to that first attorney. Then in February, you got another deal, send a deal to the second attorney. Then in March, you got another deal, send the deal to the third attorney. And see how they handle those closings, see how it is working with them, see how quickly they're responding to your emails, if they're answering your phone calls, if they're answering the seller and buyer's phone calls and emails. Very important. I would say definitely do that when you're getting started. Try out at least 3, but maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 offices, and see who do you really vibe with, who's really friendly with you, who's getting back to you really quickly, and just go from there. Because closing attorney / title company, whatever it is in your state, it doesn't really matter, but they're an essential part of your team. And a great attorney can literally make or break your business. If they're helping you out, if they're responding to you quickly, if they're willing to take your calls and help you out when you have questions like legal issues or closing issues or whatever, they're worth their weight in gold. So make sure you spend the time up front. Or if you've only been working with one attorney in the past, make sure you actually do this. Take a day to literally just call around your city or your county or your state and find a really good real estate attorney or title company to work with, and test them out, test them against each other, like I said, and just go from there. Let me know how it works for you. And again, if you want a copy of this lead sheet, I'd be happy to send it to you. So just drop a comment below, or you can message me on Facebook, Instagram, anything like that, and I'll be happy to send that over to you. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully this helps you close more deals. Like I said, a great attorney or a great title company is super valuable and will literally make or break your business, and make the difference between you having to spend a bunch of hours on the closing yourself and it being almost 100% hands off. So it really makes a huge difference. I hope this video helps you, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.